to the Piney Woods homestead, y'all. It's fencing time. Got to get some fencing up around this garden. Got to put a new post in the ground. I'm looking forward to that. You're gonna dig the hole, right?
Why not?
Nah, I don't dig the hole, y'all. She's gonna help me set it. Then we're gonna get our fencing put up around the garden, and we'll show you how we do that. And it's been very effective at keeping deer out. When I say very, I mean 100% effective. So guys, stick around.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood. Stick around, we're gonna show you how we fence the garden. And y'all, before I forget it, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you hadn't, and if you have, as always, y'all, we appreciate you. Let's get digging a hole. So y'all, currently there are 4 permanent posts down here in the garden. The existing garden is just a big rectangle, and we'll run step-in posts in between it and our wire. But when I was down here with the excavator clearing the new one, I just kind of bumped this one a little bit to loosen it up because I had an idea. And that idea is we're going to take this post up, use it as a line post on the long run we need to do on the new portion of the garden. And we're actually going to use a pine tree that's behind me to put some temporary insulators on, so that we can eliminate having to use so many step-in posts. The tree behind the camera over here, you'll see it in a few minutes, it'll come down next spring, along with a couple other pines that just didn't have time to do this year. But so that's what I'm going to do. Let's see if I can. It's pretty loose, where I loosened it with the excavator. And then right out. Let's see, it's been in here for a year, and this is yellow pine. Let's see how much deterioration is on it. Absolutely none. Now, it will rot over time, y'all. Pine's not going to last that long. It's not treated, but it is homestead treated. In other words, we burn it to char it, and then we put some homemade stain on it, and that kind of helps with it. But these are replaceable, and we've got plenty of pine, so if we get 5 years out of it, I'm happy. All right, up here to dig. I've been putting it off long enough, haven't I? So right here is where the new corner post is going to go, and if you look down this way, you may be able to see it. It's pretty stained. A 4x4 that is an existing corner post, and this scraggly pine here in the middle, we'll put some insulators on it. That's going to eliminate the need for any step-in post through here. We'll be able to get enough tension on it, but it'll work just fine. But I'll dig this hole. Then we've got to clear a little bit of brush that I neglected to do when I had the machine down here. We'll just do it by hand. It's not much. And we'll dig one more hole, set a line post, then we'll get the dragon fence wire, y'all. Let's hope this is soft. It's not too bad. Just wet.
Well, it's better than it was last year, because last year we were really dry.
Yep. Nice clay. Let's see if it fits. A little bit of a big post. Yeah, I'm gonna have to dig that hole out a little wider, because it's a 4x6. A little bit bigger than the post holes are, diggers are. Oh Lord, now it's stuck. There we go. Let me widen that hole out.
Good job. The wind is... Oh, we'll blame that on the wind.
Y'all, we're just charring it, and that seems to help weatherproof these posts a little bit. Let it burn off. That post is probably cut a year ago. It's not near as heavy as a green timber, but it'll burn out pretty quick here, leave us a good char, and put dirt back around. Huh.
Hey, it went out that time. It was like one of those trick candles.
If I've only got one candle on my birthday cake this year, I'll be able to blow it out. Just make sure it ain't that big. This is some of the mess that I didn't clean out when I had the excavator down here. Because honestly, I hadn't planned that far ahead on where this fence was going to run. So Lisa has volunteered to cut it out. I don't know if y'all can tell, but it's like 20 mile-an-hour winds today. It's good though, help dry this ground out.
Yeah, but it's May 1st and it's chilly.
It's chilly. But I'm just glad for the sun and the breeze.
Yes.
I think you whack down that one little maple that's growing off that little stump, we'll be good.
It's not just one.
Now that Lisa's got all of this scrubbed out of here, I can see between this post and the new post that we just installed, and I can get a fairly straight line on where I need to set this line post. We'll get that done, and then we'll show you stringing up some of this wire. Y'all, the reason that we put our insulators on the outside versus the inside is because we're not trying to keep animals in the garden, we're trying to keep them out. So when the deer comes up, if they were to push on the fence at all, usually they'll just touch their nose to it because they're curious. It's nice and bright yellow. They'll get a shock and they'll leave it alone. That's worked for us, but I space these things basically like ankle, knee, and waist high. And that gives a good barrier that deer's not gonna tuck in through here under it, over it, or under it at the very bottom. And it also is it's kept raccoons out too. But y'all, if you're new to the channel, we take this fence down at the end of the garden season. And the reason we do that is because we cover crop and we want to feed the wildlife during the months we're not gardening. So while the fields are laying fallow for the fall and the winter under a cover crop, the deer get to come in here and eat. And this year we had wild turkeys in here in the early spring eating on it before we turned it all under. So it's a good benefit, not just for the garden, but for nature. Whoop, 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 easy.
I know.
Let me show you a workaround for a corner post. Didn't have enough donut insulator so we could run it on the inside. And we're having to splice this wire anyways because we've got a larger garden area we're going to add to it. But just put insulators on two different sides of this corner post and we'll be able to pull around and around without touching the wood to give us that insulative barrier that we need. All right, so here's what you're going to do.
I get the squatting part.
You get the squatting. You're just going to make sure it don't bird's nest as I'm pulling. Okay. I got the end of my wire right here. And I'm going to start trucking that way with it.
All right.
I'm going to have to slide in a little more inside. Alright, Lisa's going to get in close and show you the type of wire that we use. It's just a poly braid, simple braid, and it's got real fine wire inside of it. But I've got to splice these together, and I'm not going to get fancy and pull everything apart and splice it that way. I'm going to show you just an easy way to splice this stuff. It's not barbed wire or something like that. And if you want to see a good barbed wire one, Tractor Talk with Gary up in Iowa. I just had a little short video on splicing barbed wire. It made a whole lot of sense. But I just run the new section out a good ways. And we're going to use some electrical tape. Get this started. And we'll tape the center. Tape down a little ways. And then I pull it back over itself, both of them, over where I just taped. Give them a couple of wraps. And tape it all up. Then it's going to make connection just fine. And by taping it this way, it'll hold it tight enough for this application. And it'll pull tight here in a second. And there it is. It's tight. All right, when you get to the end, I just go around the donut, come back, and I'm splicing it kind of the same way that I did up yonder. Put me around the tape, backed it across itself a couple of times, then I come out a few more inches and do the same thing all over again. There's absolutely nothing difficult about this process here. Just back it over it, tape around it, take it back the other way, take it back the other way, just getting a secure spot. And we'll leave this wire hanging off the end because we'll come back and use that for something else shortly. But now all you got to do to hook this thing up is pull it tight, hook it to itself. We'll have to dig down a little of this loose dirt out, but that's our first line. And when we put the charger on it, everything's going to be hot. I'm going to see if I can get a... Y'all, the last thing that we do is hook up a solar charger. There's all kinds of brands out there. This one just happens to be American Farm Works. And it works. We've used it for 2 years now, I think.
2 or 3, yeah.
And it seems to be doing its thing. So we had it on a metal post to start with, but now that we have this line post in, I'm gonna put it to where it'll get. I'm gonna try to put it here right in the corner of this post. There we go. That way to get morning and part of the midday sun and a little bit of afternoon. And whenever you put one of these things up, don't turn it on for several days if you haven't had it in the sun, so that it can build up a charge. But now we'll hook up a ground rod and we'll show you the finished product here in a few minutes from all the step-in posts and all the connections. All I'm doing here is hooking up a simple ground. I've got this metal, it's aluminum. I believe it's aluminum. Either way, it'll conduct. And so it's down a couple of feet into the ground. And very simple. I just wrap it around there so that it makes contact. And that's good enough. Now the last thing to do is to hook up the hot. So y'all, I'm just using some scrap wire, and I'm using copper right out of the center of this, probably, oh, it tells me on here what it is. I think it's 12-2 wire, but as long as it'll conduct electricity. And I'll hook it into the top, because on the other side over here we've got it, all three of these connected together with the tail end of what you saw us pulling, and we'll walk over there and I'll show that to you, but you want to connect them all together so that every one of them will have juice on it. And that's all there is to that. That's all there is to that. Pretty simple. And when it comes time to get in here and cultivate with the tractor, all we do is take loose over here and drag it back this section right here, and then we can back the tractor up the rows with the cultivator, disc killer, whatever we need to do, and keep the garden clean. Y'all, we appreciate you hanging out with us while we got our garden fence up, and y'all, it's taken us the better part of a day, and it usually does whenever you have to move a fence post or something like that. But I think now that we have some permanent posts where we want them, it shouldn't take probably but a couple hours.
Yeah.
But when you got to dig fence posts and all that, it takes a little bit longer. Guys, hopefully you learned a little something helpful here. A couple of cheats on putting up some garden fencing. And in our experience, we can say that it has been effective at deterring deer from getting into the garden, as well as raccoons, because they'll come to unload and they'll hit that fence with their nose. So ever since we started using an electric poly wire and a solar charger in our garden, we have not had any deer or raccoons in here munching. Squirrels will still get in, rabbits will still scoot under, but we've got a plenty in here for them.
Yeah, and they normally
and
don't.
for us.
They normally don't bother that much.
No, they don't. So we don't worry about them, y'all.
I mean, we don't like them. Well,
we do. We like them
rabbits
fried.
We do. Yeah. Well, yeah, but.
Guys, thanks for hanging out. Y'all have a good day, a great week. We'll see you on the next one. Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise too high.